picture this. You groggily wake up,
Right.
you wander into the kitchen, you stare blankly at the microwave clock, and you realize, wait, the time is completely wrong.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Right. And you just wonder, like, why on earth do we still put ourselves through this headache of moving the clocks forward and backward every single year?
It's definitely a universal frustration.
It really is. But what if I told you that moving that microwave clock by one single hour spontaneously generates, like, $21 billion for the economy?
Which is just a wild number.
Right. But then on the flip side, it also directly causes an 11% spike in clinical depression.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like some kind of ridiculous premise for a sci-fi novel or something,
Hmm.
but it is the actual measured reality of this time shift that we put ourselves through.
Exactly. So, welcome to another deep dive. Today, our mission is to look at this fascinating stack of sources we've gathered for you. We've got articles, economic research, societal data, all trying to figure out the surprising financial and social consequences of daylight savings time.
And we're looking specifically at Australia for this, right?
Yes, exactly. Because, over the last 20 years or so, the Australian states have just been ditching the time switch one by one.
Right.
So today, only the foremost southern states still bother to participate. But man, when October rolls around, the fierce debate over whether to keep it just fires up all over again.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive fight every year.
Okay, let her unpack this, because I think we need to start with the history. Like, why did we even start doing this in the first place?
Right. So the reason that debate is so fierce today is because the modern reality of daylight savings has just, well, completely detached from its original purpose.
Because everyone thinks it's about farmers, right?
Exactly.
Right.
People point to this agrarian myth about farmers needing more light, or, they'll cite wartime energy conservation.
Yeah.
And historically, that wartime justification was actually the driving force.
Okay, so it was about World War II.
Yes. During World War II, the nation just desperately needed coal. They needed to funnel all their coal resources into industrial manufacturing for the war effort rather than, using it to power residential homes.
So they needed a way to force everyday people to just keep their lights off.
Precisely. The logic was actually incredibly pragmatic.
Yeah.
Like if you shift the clock so the natural sunlight extends way further into the evening, people would just stay outside longer.
Right, they're not sitting in their dark living rooms.
Exactly. They socialize outdoors, they don't go inside, and crucially, they don't turn on their really inefficient incandescent light bulbs.
Oh, right, because back then, lighting was huge.
Yeah, for that specific era, lighting was a massive drain on the grid. And with coal at a premium, this was basically a highly effective society-wide rationing campaign that was just masked as a simple schedule change.
Wow. Okay, but the sources we are looking at today, they track the modern data. And I mean, the modern data paints a completely different picture.
Oh, completely.
Because we don't rely on those old incandescent bulbs anymore. We have highly efficient LED lighting. Our reliance on coal for residential electricity has shifted entirely. And yet, we're still moving the clocks.
Yeah, we are.
And this blew my mind. When researchers actually measured the energy consumption savings in a modern home during daylight savings, the total savings was 0.34%.
Yeah, less than half of a single percent.
Wait, less than half a percent?
I know. It is effectively a statistical rounding error in the modern energy grid.
I don't get that. I was looking at this data and the math just doesn't add up to me. Like if I am leaving my lights off for a full extra hour every single night for months, how is the total savings only 0.3%?
Because, well, you aren't factoring in heating and cooling.
Oh.
Yeah. Climate control completely dwarfs lighting in terms of energy consumption.
Yeah.
So you might be leaving your LED lights off and saving a few pennies, sure.
Yeah.
But think about what happens when you shift the schedule during the warmer months. Your house basically acts like a giant thermal box. You are coming home and you're running the air conditioner during the hottest, sunniest part of the late afternoon.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right. So the energy required to cool your house while the sun is still just baking it, that completely eats whatever minuscule savings you gained by not flipping a light switch.
That makes a lot of sense. The technology changed, so the math flipped. That's crazy. That's like keeping an old landline phone plugged in and paying the bill every month just in case you need to make one call a year.
That is the perfect analogy, actually.
But if we aren't saving the environment, and we aren't protecting the power grid, why are those 4 Australian states still clinging to this? Like,
Yeah.
Why go through the collective headache of jet lagging the entire population twice a year?
What's fascinating here is that the motivation entirely shifted. We transitioned from saving pennies on electricity to making absolute billions in retail.
Billions.
Billions with a B. The real modern driver of daylight savings isn't conservation at all anymore. It is massive economic stimulation.
Yeah, and the numbers in these economic reports are just staggering. They literally call it the sunshine premium.
The sunshine premium.
The data shows that daylight savings contributes $21 billion to the Australian economy.
Unbelievable.
It equates to roughly $3.5 billion in extra collective spending for every single month that the clocks are shifted forward.
It is a massive economic engine, and really it explains exactly why there is such fierce resistance from the business sector to any notion of getting rid of it.
Of course they want to keep it.
Right. But the mechanism behind it, like why moving a clock 1 hour generates billions of dollars, that is deeply rooted in behavioral economics.
Which actually brings up a question I was thinking about as I read through these reports, and I'm sure you listening are wondering the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Are we just shifting on normal spending to different hours? Like, am I just buying my normal weekly groceries at 7 p.m. instead of 5 p.m.? Or are we actually blowing our budgets and spending new money just because the sun is out?
The research is definitive on this one. You are spending new money.
Really?
Yeah, it is not just a mere shift in transaction times. The data shows that total takings go up, and the average amount each customer spends per transaction also goes up.
Wow. Just because it's sunny.
Exactly. Human psychology is deeply tied to daylight. Sunlight acts as this potent behavioral trigger. It actually offsets decision fatigue.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, when the sun is still up, your brain is kind of tricked into feeling like the day isn't over yet. You feel less fatigued, your mood is elevated, and consequently, your financial discipline just loosens. You're far more likely to spend frivolously.
It's almost like the sunshine tricks us into thinking we are on a mini vacation every single evening.
That's exactly how it feels.
Let's look at how that plays out in specific industries, because retail is obviously the biggest winner here. I mean, my personal budget benefits the least from this, clearly.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources show that the retail sector sees a 10% increase in revenue across the board during daylight savings.
And that 10% is largely driven by just increased foot traffic at major shopping centers. The mechanism is really simple. When it's light out after work, people don't just commute straight home and lock their front doors.
Right, they detour.
Exactly. They go wander the mall, they window shop. The longer they're out of their homes, the more opportunities they have to make impulse purchases.
And while retail benefits broadly, the restaurant industry data reveals some incredibly specific behavioral quirks.
Oh, the restaurant data is fascinating.
It is. Like, location matters, obviously. Like sitting by the beach in nice weather. It extends the dinner window from a gloomy 7 p.m. to a bright 9 p.m.
Yeah, nobody wants to sit on a dark patio.
Right. But the sources point out this phenomenon they call the weekday anomaly.
Yes.
This restaurant spending boom is incredibly strong on Mondays through Thursdays. But daylight savings has basically zero effect on sit-down meal spending on Fridays and Saturdays.
Which is wild, right? But that data point is just a perfect snapshot of how our work routines dictate our lives. Think about the psychology of the work week. On Fridays and Saturdays, people's social calendars are usually already set. They're going out to dinner or meeting friends, regardless of what the sun is doing.
Right, it's the weekend.
But a Tuesday. During the winter, the work week structures our behavior into this strict commute, work, commute, home pipeline. When it's pitch dark at 5:30 p.m., you go straight home on a Tuesday and you do not leave.
Right. You put on your sweatpants, you order takeout, and you are done for the night.
Exactly. But give someone an extra hour or two of daylight on a Tuesday, and that sunlight breaks the pipeline. Suddenly, meeting a friend for a drink or grabbing dinner on a restaurant patio doesn't feel exhausting anymore. It feels justified.
It feels like you still have a life on a Tuesday.
Yes. The daylight gives workers psychological permission to break the monotony of the work week. It literally turns ordinary low-revenue weekdays into major economic opportunities for the hospitality sector.
Okay, so the extra sunlight completely manipulates our spending habits to the tune of $21 billion by just altering our brain's perception of fatigue.
That's the long and short of it, yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because if more people are out walking around, lingering at malls, spending money late into the evening, doesn't that logically mean there's more opportunity for crime?
You would think so.
Right, like more people on the street with their wallets out should mean more targets.
You would naturally assume that, but the data shows the exact opposite. Daylight savings is actually a highly effective crime deterrent.
Which is just crazy to me.
According to the public safety data in our stack, robberies decrease by roughly 7% a day during the months daylight savings is active.
I am genuinely struggling to understand the mechanics of that. I mean, if criminals like the cover of darkness to commit robberies and the sun just sets an hour later,
Hmm.
wouldn't the robbers just set their alarms an hour later?
It's a fair question.
Does the crime just shift to a different, darker hour of the night?
It is a totally reasonable presumption, but it actually misunderstands the anatomy of opportunistic crime. The robberies don't just shift to 11 p.m. or midnight. The overall total number of robberies actually decreases entirely.
Wait, they just don't happen.
They just don't happen. To understand why, you have to look at when these crimes typically occur. Opportunistic street robberies happen most frequently during the evening commute.
Oh, like when people are walking from the train station to their cars.
Exactly. Or transitioning from work to home.
Yes.
Criminals need the cover of darkness to obscure their identity and ensure a clean escape, sure. But they also need a high volume of potential victims.
So there is a specific window where vulnerability overlaps with darkness?
Precisely. During standard time, the evening commute happens in the dark. That is the prime window. But when you implement daylight savings, you push the sunlight late into the evening. You bathe that entire commute and that post-work dinner rush in broad daylight. So by the time the sun finally sets and it gets dark enough to provide cover, the streets are empty. The potential victims are already safely locked inside their homes.
So the criminals don't just wait until midnight because there is no one left to rob at midnight.
Exactly.
The window of opportunity doesn't move, it is just totally erased.
Which is why policymakers pay very close attention to this. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see why those 4 southern states are holding on so tightly to the time switch.
Because it's a win-win.
The Sunshine Premium provides a utopian scenario for local governments. You get a booming multi-billion-dollar economic stimulus paired with a tangible 7% reduction in violent street crime. It provides financial wealth and societal well-being and safety.
I mean, it sounds perfect on paper. It really does.
It does.
But as our medical and workplace sources clearly outline, this economic and safety boom is definitely not free. There is a very real, very heavy toll extracted from the population to pay for it.
Yeah, there's always a catch.
So the economy is basically operating like someone who just chugged 3 espressos at 4 p.m. You get this massive artificial burst of energy, socializing, and spending.
Right.
But when the clocks go back, when the lower eastern states fall off a cliff and are plunged into darkness before 7 p.m., the hangover is devastating. Spending crashes down.
And that biological crash, that hangover, is highly measurable. Let's look at the immediate aftermath of the changeover. In the single day that follows the clock change, there is an estimated $400 million of workplace productivity simply lost.
$400 million in one day, just from people being tired.
Yeah, but it is more severe than just feeling a bit groggy.
Yeah.
When you artificially mandate a shift in time, you are causing a sudden collective disruption to the circadian rhythms of millions of people.
Right, your whole body's confused.
Focus plummets, cognitive processing slows down, and mistakes just multiply. But it goes beyond just moving slower at your desk. The sources highlight that workplace accidents actually see a significant spike during the week of the transition.
Oh, wow.
The loss of sleep and the physical disorientation literally make our workplaces, construction sites, and highways far more dangerous.
I mean, the physical clumsiness and the productivity loss, that makes sense to me. But the psychological toll in these reports is what really stood out.
The mental health data is rough.
It really is. The medical data notes that doctors see a roughly 11% increase in clinical depressive episodes in the month that follows the end of daylight savings.
Yeah.
I have to admit, that sounds extreme. How does moving a microwave clock by 1 hour cause a double-digit spike in clinical depression?
It's not just about losing an hour of sleep. It's about melatonin and your entire endocrine system. Your brain's internal pacemaker is deeply wired to respond to light and dark cues, specifically the intensity of natural light.
Okay.
Your brain uses the gradual fading of evening light as the chemical trigger to release melatonin, to lower your core body temperature, and to just wind down your nervous system.
So we are essentially chemically dependent on that specific lighting schedule.
Yes, we are. So when you abruptly strip away that evening light by moving the clocks back, your brain's chemical signaling gets completely out of sync with your alarm clock and your required social schedule.
That makes sense.
You are basically plunging people into darkness while their bodies think it is still supposed to be active afternoon. That biological confusion, when it's sustained over several weeks, has a profound destabilizing effect on mood regulation.
Wow.
So an 11% spike in clinical depressive episodes isn't just people feeling sad that summer's over. It is a major, measurable public health event caused by chemical misalignment, and it happens predictably every single year.
So what does this all mean? We are essentially looking at a massive society-wide trade-off here.
We really are.
We are actively choosing to sacrifice our biological rhythms. We accept hundreds of millions of dollars in lost productivity, a measurable spike in physical workplace injuries, and we trigger an 11% increase in depression rates, all to artificially prop up retail shopping and weekday restaurant vibes.
That is the core tension of the modern debate. You have undeniable, billions of dollars level economic benefits and a proven reduction in violent crime on one side of the ledger.
Right.
And on the other side, you have a literal public health toll paid in physical accidents and mental well-being. It is a very precarious balancing act between the financial sunshine premium and the biological tax we inevitably pay for it.
It really reframes the entire groggy morning experience. Like, we aren't saving coal for a World War II rationing effort anymore.
That's all.
We are feeding a $21 billion retail juggernaut, and we're enjoying safer streets, sure, but we are paying the invoice with our endocrine systems.
Exactly. So as you think about this deep dive and the next time October rolls around and the political debate starts up again, the question you really have to ask yourself is this. Is the extra hour of sunlight in your evening truly worth the disruption to your biology, the heightened risk of accidents, and the eventual mental crash when the light goes away?
And to take it one step further, here's a final thought for you to mull over today. If moving a clock by just one single hour can spontaneously generate $21 billion in extra spending, but also directly trigger an 11% spike in clinical depression, how much of our supposed free will and financial discipline is literally just dictated by the position of the sun?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We will see you next time.